lined up for you today. So I'm sure you have something to really look forward to. Before we move on to the topic for the day, which is examining exams, let me take you through what we at Notebook try to do for exams. As you know, Notebook is an edtech brand. We offer short, crisp video lessons for every topic from the school syllabus, right from classes 1 to 12. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the typical Notebook screen when you open a particular topic. On the bottom right corner, you would see question and answer sets. Well, as a pedagogy, we split every topic into 7 vectors. The videos consist of 4 of these parts. There is the interest builder. Then there are various parts of the topic lesson videos. There is a short recap video to recapitulate everything that was taught in the lessons, and a short question answer video that gives the student an idea of how best to frame their answers to questions in an exam. Besides this, we have 2 text vectors. One is the notes, which are additional text material for the students to prepare with, and the question answer sets. These question answer sets are very, very crucial to the students' preparation. Let me show you how. Inside the question answer sets, a student typically receives textual content like the ones you see on your screen. When we started out, we were very clear that any assessment module that we build will have to be AI driven, which we are still working towards. In the meantime, like a teacher does in a classroom, we wanted the platform to be able to preempt the questions that the students can have about a particular topic. And the best way to do that was to talk to people who are experts. Yes, teachers just like you. We worked with so many experienced educators, and it has been the most rewarding experience to find out from teachers how they can so effectively preempt the questions that students would have when a particular topic is being taught in class. Today on Notebook, you have more than 1 lakh such questions as part of these question answer sets. Here are just 3 examples out of those, like the topic of nationalism in India, which is from the CBSE Class 10 history syllabus. We have a set of questions from the textbook, a set of short questions which are preempted by experienced teachers, a set of long questions, and in other chapters you would find multiple choice questions, true and false questions, and other such. This is how we try to put our best foot forward in helping students prepare for their exams. Well, enough about Notebook. It is now time for me to introduce to you your first speaker for the day. Our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired from the illustrious Doon after 44 years of serving in education. He served the Doon School as the housemaster, head of department, dean of student welfare, dean of activities, deputy headmaster, second master, and acting headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. Sir, privileged to have you with us. Over to you.
Good evening, Shabayu. Am I audible?
Good evening, sir. Loud and clear.
And good evening to you, Achin, Abhishek, the entire team, our esteemed guests on the panel, as well as all those who have tuned in. As Abhishek as Shabayu just mentioned, I think examinations were probably have been, are, and always will be the bane of every teacher and student's life. We seem to be obsessed with exams right through, from almost class 1 to class 12. I was recently reading about how Finland as a country has moved up to the #1 spot in secondary education. And when I examined some of the things they do, I was surprised. They only teach a 20-hour day a week, 20 hours a week. They have no homework. There is much more play and much more experiential learning. They, in fact, have very little testing, and they scoff at the American standardized tests that people were talking about. They also, of course, scoff at the fact that the Americans have stopped teaching geography and history. All these things would make the average middle-class, ambitious parent in our country cringe. And yet, Finland is, right on top there. I once did a survey of schools from all over and learned that my school tested far too much and too often. And based on that research, we we reduced the days spent on testing. Now, if you look at students, they're being tested on the playing fields, in the classrooms, they're studying for their SAT, ACT, CAT, CLAT, FITGs, engineering and medical exams. And very often, these students leave school to join crammers where they prepare to give tests. Just take a look at the number of test taking coaching centers in our city, and you will know what testing is all about. Sometimes I think it is more important to teach our children to ask questions rather than answer them. And why do we test? Now, it is said that tests are a necessary evil. They have to be done in order to grade and evaluate students. Since the demand of colleges and jobs is much greater than the supply, there has to be a system whereby the best few are selected for the few posts available. The problem is that there are ways of testing the problem is that there are ways of testing that are written examinations quite often based on rote learning and the regurgitation of facts. There are other ways of testing. If you look around the education scenario, you would have noticed the school ratings done by a number of magazines like Education World, which are very much like the SEAT cricket ratings we once had, where the best schools in various categories are listed on perceptive surveys. They cover a number of parameters. These surveys have made schools very, very competitive. Schools are now assessed by the number of toppers. Teachers are assessed by the number of 99 percenters they create. And we live in a world where we are being assessed and tested all the time. So for the school administration to get a bigger name and to get more students or to get a higher ranking, the poor student eventually has to bear the brunt of a number of exams. And the fallacy is that test scores are not the best indicator of a student's ability or quality. Now, when is testing good? Now, if assessment is the process of gathering information on what students know based on their education experience, assessment results are typically used to identify areas of improvement and ensure that course content meets learning needs. When meaningful and well constructed, they help students gear up for success by challenging them to reflect, interact, and apply their knowledge to answer questions, solve problems, and communicate information. There are a number of practices one can use to evaluate students mindfully. The best method will vary, of course, based on the learning needs and objectives. For example, an online quiz would be the best match if your goal is to measure knowledge gains quickly. But if you want to test your students' interview skills, you'd have to use something much different, like a dialogue simulation. Now, not all testing is bad. Have you ever seen the excitement on students' faces when they are asked to line up to race? That too is a test of sorts, where there are winners and losers. But it is a good test because the results are immediate and the children may not be forced to take part. I think that the best tests are those that we impose upon ourselves. Like each time we take a car out to drive or take a motorcycle out to drive, we are actually testing ourselves. And each time we decide to cook a dish in our kitchens, we again are administering a test to ourselves. Each test will tell us something about ourselves and make us better, either at driving or cooking. But there is no second person sitting in judgment of us. For example, every time a doctor operates, he's actually testing himself, his skills. These are self-imposed. He is competing against himself, testing himself against his previous operations. There's a lovely slogan which says, the only person I should compete with is my yesterday's self. And the management guru, Peter Drucker, once said that if something cannot be measured, it cannot be improved upon. So in some ways, let's take an athlete, for example. He can only improve his performance if he knows his current levels. By testing and by training and timing himself, he can improve, just like racing cars are improved because they race them on circuits. So in some ways, testing may be good, Now, broadly speaking, there are two types of tests. There is testing of learning and testing for learning. Now, testing of learning is the thing that, Subayu spoke about initially. These are the tests that give us the creeps. We are scared of these. These are tests that will be done after the term, or end of term, end of year. These tests do not provide feedback, and it's just a number. While testing for learning is a method of getting children to take a test in order to learn. It can be given as an exercise prior to teaching a lesson, so that students are not blank slates when they come to the lesson. It is also given as a recap for the lesson, as a summary, to see whether you can consolidate learning. Now, I once took a class, a young class of, I think, class 6 to a refinery in Bombay when I was training. And we did a questionnaire, which we handed out to the children before they even went to the refinery. They had done something on oil. And so this test was a test for learning, not of learning. We asked them questions like, why is the refinery on the coast? How does the oil come to the refinery? What are the barrels here for? Why are things so slippery around over here? Why are there no smoking signs, etc., etc. Now, the children were expected to ask the people around the refinery and find out answers for themselves. So this is a test, but the test led to learning. It was not a test of learning. Now, poetry is best tested in this way, by asking open-ended questions like, what do you think the poet meant when he said blah, blah? Or what do you think the girl felt when she returned home to find ... Rather than the teacher giving the class her interpretation and testing to see whether the children have learned it by heart. Then there are also formative and summative tests. The former, that's formative, has the students receiving feedback immediately. And these are very useful, as feedback helps students to correct their mistakes immediately. Summative tests are like the final exams or the IAS exams, where there are results, but there are no comments and there's no learning that takes place. Now, I'm surprised, when we take blood tests or aircraft flight testing, it is helpful. It improves our health and also improves the performance of aircraft. So amongst the many evils of testing for learning, it creates comparisons. Testing creates comparisons among students and divides students into those who know and those who don't know, the toppers and the duffers. It creates in young children that feeling of inferiority, that I am not good enough. And I have seen in Doon school great suffering and anguish in boys who did not pass the school admission test. This test actually sifts those who deserve to come to school and those who don't. And I tell you, it caused a lot of heartache that remained with children for years. Now, a good way to test as a form of assessment is taking into consideration that different children learn indifferently, and to spread the questions between knowledge, testing, things like memory, facts and data, application-based, how do you use this knowledge to solve problems? Skill-based questions like measurements, use of equipment, and also creative-based questions. How would you do this? What do you think? How would you design it better? Now, all questions should be, not just multiple choice. They should be short answers, multiple choice. You should, break it around. Long answer questions are very, very good. In fact, girls, they find, do much better with the long answer questions than boys. Boys are much better with the multiple choice questions. Now, I'm going to take you through some of the harmful effects of tests. One is that a lot of precious time is lost for the teacher, who could have been teaching rather than testing. And so much time is lost for the students, who could have been playing and learning in myriad ways rather than studying for tests. Secondly, students are so desperate for good scores that affect their future that they would do anything from cheating to bribery to cramming, even drugs, to get their grades. Third, stress and lack of confidence, negative attitudes, suicides, demotivation, depression. This is all a result when we separate the winners from the losers. Fourth, it removes the joy of learning to simply doing well in exams. Fifth, students can study how to master these tests, like taking the SAT test, so for example. So in school, we did the SAT, but we also had coaching classes on how to do the SAT. So children who could afford these classes did much better than students who couldn't. So is that a good measure of how good a student is? Sixth, they don't value creativity and they don't check the diversity of the learner. Seventh, teachers spend too much time teaching for the exam, not for the, as I said, the joy of learning, and therefore the end justified the means. Now, eighth, what happens is testing is not a natural, it's something natural. Look at a classroom. You can't talk, you can't move around, you can't reference, you can't get out. Now, look at real life. The closest you can come to this is the prison. And that's why when you say schools prepare children for real life, I don't think an exam is a real life situation. It also reduces the richness of human experience to a set of numbers. There are some students, I know a student who was an expert in paleontology, but we don't offer that subject in school. This boy knew everything that anyone possibly could know at his age about dinosaurs. He drew them, he knew them, he ate, slept, and he dreamt about them. And yet, nobody knew how good he was because this was not tested. And also, it gives people a false sense of achievement and security. Some parents who have students or the wards who do very well think that their kids know everything. But basically, what they do know is just they have memorized facts. For example, there was a team of Harvard students who went on a sort of exchange to a village in Morocco. And these were all Harvard graduates doing a week out in Morocco. And an old Moroccan villager asked, "Who are these students? They can't cook. They can't. They don't identify snakes. They can't catch and live off the land. They don't know how to build mud houses. These are not clever students at all." So it's how it's what you look at as important and worth testing. Now, I will skip over the best ways to do online classroom testing because I know our esteemed panel who are in education today would do that better. And I would just want to end with a little bit of advice to parents, which is the last slide, Shubayu. Tips for parents during online lessons. Now, the slide that Shubayu this one, Shubayu. So I would advise parents just to make space for learning, to maintain breaks, don't have it, going on for hours and hours. Allow the children to interact with friends via video chats, to mix the screen time and screen learning with some of the old school learning mediums like sport, reading, have debates at home, organize debates with children, some of the older school stuff. Try and keep in touch with other parents. Don't underestimate the power of a schedule. I think children have to learn what is a schedule, and children should not treat this as a vacation. This is school time. And remember, the scheduled time, to pre-schedule time for fun. And with that, Shubayu, I am going to hand this over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. This week is no exception because every week having you start the session always lays such great groundwork for the discussions to come. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to move on to the next speaker for today. Our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, he was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with a keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yes.
I welcome all of you again to today's session on a topic which calls for serious introspection. From times immemorial, examinations have always been an integral part of our education system, and their utility cannot be completely ruled out. However, the question before the learned jury today is far more complex than a simple binomial choice of exams or no exams. Rather, it is the form and fashion in which it is conducted. Also, we need to understand the learning objective that we try to assess through these examinations, and then do some serious soul searching to reach an informed judgment on whether or not some changes may help. However, before we move forward, let me first of all extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists who are with us today to enrich us on this very important topic. Every year, more than 1 crore students appear for board exams in India. Now let me share some very unfortunate statistics with you. Every hour, and I repeat, every hour as we speak, one student commits suicide in India, with about 28 such suicides reported every day. According to data compiled by the National Crime Records Bureau, the NCRB data shows more than 10,000 students died by suicide in 2018, and this has been an ever increasing trend. So vis-a-vis what we see in 2017 and 2016, 2017 we had around 9,900 and 2016 roughly around 9,500. Now, each time a child takes such a step, to me, it's not the individual student who loses hope and feels defeated. Rather, it is a collective defeat that all of us as members of the academic fraternity and civil society share. Indeed, my head hangs in shame when I hear this. Every year, we read about question papers being leaked, corrupted culprits being nabbed by the cops, but then again, next year, the trend is repeated. It's like a vicious circle. But before we blame the system, I guess it calls for self-introspection, as the opportunity for change lies within each one of us. First and foremost, assessment should be a gradual process which aims to evaluate the conceptual clarity of a student and not his ability to only memorize. It should try to assess whether he or she can apply the said knowledge in a given circumstance, and not merely how good they are in terms of their rote memory. With the changing times, any data or information is becoming increasingly available in public domain and easily retrievable in seconds. Thus, new age jobs are not going to be about merely stating information, but about interpreting them and applying them in a judicious manner. And hence, our examination system also may call for a thorough overhaul. By recent trends, ways to test academic intelligence, knowledge, life skills, and ability have found expressions on question papers in different formats, and leading organizations around the world have engaged in research relating to the best ways of assessing a child's performance level. Whether subjective or objective, fast-paced or regular, the mode of competitive examinations have been standardized to the extent that students from around the world, given different ethnicity, background, and language affiliations, are tested on the same virtual platform. This is an outstanding achievement on the part of some of the global organizations such as ETS that conduct tests like GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, and other internationally acclaimed test takers like the IELTS and British Council. There's a very interesting case study that I want to share with all of you today. This experiment was conducted by a lady called Norika Ari in Japan. And the name of the project was Todai Robot Project. Now this is really interesting. The question was, can artificial intelligence pass the entrance exam of Tokyo University? Now Tokyo University by far is one of the most acclaimed universities in Japan. So the question was, can artificial intelligence pass the test? Now, my question is, why was entrance exam taken as a benchmark? Because the objective was to study the performance of artificial intelligence in comparison to humans, especially on skills and expertise, which we believe are acquired only by humans through education. So the objective was to introspect on the entire education system. Now to enter Todai, like the University of Tokyo, also named as Todai, you have to pass two different types of exams, which you see in your screen. The first one is a national standardized test in multiple choice style. So you have to take 7 subjects and achieve a high score. Now around 85% or more accuracy rate is needed to be allowed to take the second stage. Thus, only if you scored 85% or more in the first level, you're allowed to take the second level. Second level is a written test. So what happened? Did the robot really pass the entrance with the aid of artificial intelligence? No. And why so? Because it doesn't understand any meaning. However, it was using search keywords to give accurate answers to any factual questions being asked. So the moment you ask a factual question, you get an answer, which is completely accurate. But when it comes to interpreting something, naturally that is where the robot fails. Let me give you an example how modern artificial intelligence system works. Now, the Todai robot was asked, what was Mozart's last symphony? And given a hint, given a clue that it shares its name with a planet, right? So taking the Jeopardy challenge as an example, here's a typical Jeopardy. Interestingly, a Jeopardy question always ends with this something, this planet, this country, this rock musician, and so on. In other words, Jeopardy doesn't ask many different types of questions, but a single type, which we call factoid questions. Robots are very good at searching and optimizing. It will recognize the keywords Mozart, last symphony are appearing heavily around here. So it can find a word, which is a planet, and which is co-occurring with these keywords. That must be the answer, right? So very easily it answered, and the answer was Jupiter. However, among 500,000 students who took the same exam as Todai robot, our Todai robot is among the top 20%, and I repeat, top 20%. And it was capable to pass more than 60% of the universities in Japan. Maybe not Tokyo University, which is the top ranked one, but more than 60% of the universities, given their level of expectation, the robot was good enough. Thus, it is performing better than most to-be white-collar workers. Now, after this, The lady in question decided to investigate what was going on in the human world, and thus took hundreds of sentences from high school textbooks and made easy multiple choice quizzes and asked thousands of high school students to answer them. Of course, this experiment was conducted in Japan. And what we see is 1/3 of junior high school students failed to answer these questions. So 33% couldn't answer. Now, do you think this is the case only in Japan? Maybe not so, because Japan is always ranked among the top in OECD PISA tests, PISA surveys, which measures a 15-year-old student's performance in mathematics, science, and reading every 3 years. Thus, it's important to teach children life skills like inventing problem solving, or communication, or teamwork, or figuring out complex situations or characteristics, and character traits like determination, perseverance, and resourcefulness. Being able to stand up to failure, being bold, or appreciating the wonder in nature and human achievement or capabilities. We all need like setting bold goals, in learning. How to learn, being able to persevere through difficulties. How to find your passion and purpose in life, and figuring out how you can make your world better. Now, if most parents focus only on one thing, and that is what grade the child is getting, naturally it puts a huge pressure on the child, right? That's very logical, and leads to anxiety, loss of sleep, consequential depression that Burrett was referring to, self-doubt, feeling out of place in social circles. So they don't want to go anywhere, any social gathering, event, party. Every conversation about the child leads to a brutal comparison of grades with those of the neighbor's child or relatives or colleagues. And in extreme cases, this leads to self-harming tendency like suicides. The question is, why can't we love and nurture them unconditionally? Another very important case study that I would like to discuss here is the school of Sonam Wangchuk and how he is bringing educational reforms in the Trans-Himalayan region of Ladakh. He draws inspiration from these facts. Now here you see 3 personalities in your screen. The first gentleman studied journalism and became the Education Minister of Ladakh Hill Council at the age of 27. The second gentleman is a filmmaker today and has been winning awards at film festivals across India, France, and Canada. While the lady is a celebrated entrepreneur, featured in many national and international journals. So what's common? Why am I showing you these pictures? What's common among all 3 of them? All of them failed multiple times in their school leaving exams, matrix. The first gentleman failed 5 times, the second one 4 times, and the lady 3 times. And yet, they are role models, hugely successful. So at times, students who score 95% marks are also made to feel like failures when society judges them for not getting admission to a top college. Sonam Wangchuk is the founder of Students' Educational and Cultural Movement of Ladakh. So while he was doing his engineering, he understood the hardships faced by Ladakhi students in government schools. And this is really interesting. 95% of them were failing in their matric exams every year. 95%. That's alarming, right? He went back to Ladakh after his studies and started a movement with like-minded youth. Initially, he helped with coaching matric students, and later point of time, started bringing reforms to village primary schools. They launched an education reform movement in collaboration with the government. Now, within 7 years, the results went up from 5%. Like earlier, 95% of students were failing. So naturally, 5% students passed. the results went up from 5% to 55%, and today it stands at 75%. But I guess the best part is yet to come, because for those who still failed, they set up a very special and innovative school, which has produced many inspiring stories. As students learn by taking part in a lot of activities, hands-on, they manage the activities of the school by forming an elected body. So the criteria for being admitted to a school, to this school, is that you are failing in the conventional system. And these students are doing exceedingly well. Thus, in a classroom pen and paper system, this really calls for serious deliberation. We discussed about the Todai robot case study. We are teaching our children for jobs of the future which do not yet exist. In a classroom pen and paper system, there is limited opportunity to expose students to adaptive methods of examination, and that limitation is fully understood. Considering that limitation, our esteemed educators are doing a fantastic job, no doubt about it. However, today's technological advancements, online adaptive testing has gained a lot of popularity. Adaptive tests are best suited to the individual's level of ability, such that the question formats do not overwhelm the student. Now, especially online exams during the pandemic, what we have seen in last few months, have brought in newer parameters that schools, I'm sure, are handling specifically. Now, tests conducted at home environments do not offer the same level of challenge to a student as one in a classroom environment. Children may have opportunities to refer to resources or books. I guess that's understood. It's more like an open book exam. Thus, I'm sure the stress is more on application of knowledge and not merely on stating facts. Now, such differences in the environment could require revamping of testing strategies, as we discussed, with multiple choice questions in limited time period, as opposed to subjective questioning methods. Thus, as much as, we teachers, educators, parents prepare our children for these exams, it's very important to understand that the aim of assessment, the aim of education system has to be ultimately to assess application of knowledge and conceptual clarity. Also, I guess examinations prepare us for a much larger battle of life. Keeping composure, I guess, is very, very important. Being able to keep your cool, keep your composure, it's also a test of nerves. Exams are important, but it's not the end of the world. Thus, I guess we should not look at exams as an isolation. They are a part of the much larger learning process. Thus, any kind of desperation or pressure tactics on the part of parents leads to very serious consequences. Because at the end of the day, whatever is happening, whether that be children getting into depression, resorting to unfair means, the root cause is monumental expectation and comparison. So I guess that is where all of us have a huge role, as the change lies within each one of us. With this, I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. And I really look forward to hear from our esteemed panelists on this very important topic. Over to you, Shuvayu.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I think this provides the perfect stage for our experts panelists to deliver their thoughts on this very important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, much ado, let me introduce to you our first guest speaker for today. Our first guest speaker is Dr. Mrs. Minakhi Das. Dr. Das has had an illustrious career in education spanning 40 years and been the subject expert at the Board of Secondary Education Odisha for 23 years, and has also served as the in charge of the Controller of Examinations for the Odisha Board of Secondary Education. She has also been the coordinator of the syllabus committee, and prior to her duties on the board, she has been a teacher with classroom experience in excess of 16 years. She was the coordinator of all the 27 syllabus committees and the correspondence course committee of the board. She superannuated on 31st of July 2018 as the senior academic officer and branch head of the academic division. An accomplished writer, compiler, reviewer, and translator of textbooks and vocational texts, Dr. Das is also the coordinator of the State Open Institute of Schools textbooks. She has authored over 45 journals, academic publications, novels, poems, and short stories. We at Notebook are also privileged to have ma'am as an advisor on our board. Ma'am, privileged to have you on the platform today. Over to you. Dr. Das, ma'am, are you there? Ma'am, we can't hear you. You might be on mute. Could you check once? Ma'am, we can see you and hear you now.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. We can see you. We can hear you.
Hello.
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 Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. We can hear you. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening to all. कुछ ओवरराइड होता है, ओवरराइड हो जाए.
नहीं, नो प्रॉब्लम मैम, आप बोलिए, हमें सुनाई दे रहा है.
हेलो.
हेलो. यस मैम.
हाँ. गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल.
गुड इवनिंग मैम.
Okay. Welcome to all my dear panelists, respected panelists, and our team of the Notebook. Now, I heard you, both of you, Burrett sir and Achin ji. Now, from my experience in Odisha board, I can say we are always facing examination during our lifetime, but students, when they face examination, it creates fear of phobia. So they are interested for examination, they are interested for learning, but we are creating phobia, we are creating fears among them. So we all have responsibilities for them also. Now, we all know about our NP 1986 has emphasized. According to that, we are running our school system, but the examination is lacking behind. The system is not proper as I think. When we administer a question paper over every type of students, the students have different IQs, but we are imposing them one type of question paper, which I think is not proper. Sometimes scarcity in paper sectors are felt because to frame proper question according to knowledge based, understanding level, skill based, these are not properly distributed among in a question paper. So that is also from that point of view, we cannot say that the question examination is proper or we are giving proper justice to our children. So we have no, I saw the examination body, they have also not sufficient question bank. So which is putting difficulty to the guardians and the students also. If they have question bank, they would prepare themselves thoroughly, and the guardians also they will be comfortable with their children. Sometimes we are facing no adequate course material is there because to run at least 10 years public exam. That is also another point to be considered, that course materials should be sufficient to face the public exam and not to repeat the same question for at least 10 years. This is also, as I experienced from my experience, I am telling that. So sometimes, or another point is that the different types of children are giving one type of answer, but we are measuring the same question with various teachers. When I am telling about languages, so the mind of the language teacher is not same as all of us. So that is not considered proper. The assessment is not being done proper as I thought. Apart from that, we are sometimes there is no adequate teaching staff, which is in our Odisha. I am telling, I am not broad knowledge about all over India, but I am telling what is implementing in our state. So that, from that point of view, we are facing a lot of troubles, and sometimes senior teachers are they are not going to assess, showing different their difficulties. So junior teachers are evaluating the class. So hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I think proper analysis of examination system is required, which is not properly done. Though Odisha is fast in implementing our OMR system, in recent past we have administered OMR system, but now we are lagging behind. We are abolishing that OMR system. We are again introducing question come answer booklet system. So whenever we are doing something, so what is based on research, that should be felt out, that should be checked out, which is not being done. Apart from this, I think 3 hours for 3 hours should be given to the students to to write their answers, and 15 minutes be devoted for reading their question paper. That should be uniform wise to be followed. And there shall be 3 summative tests, including the final exam, public exam, which may measure the students accurately, because before public exam, if a student falls ill, then we cannot give justice to his credit, because he is suffering from some diseases. So naturally, his assessment will go lower, and it will not be better. So I think these are the components, as I felt, as I experienced in my working place, because I have superannuated since 2 years. So I have felt such problems, which I put forth before you all of you. And again, if you will answer me about Odisha board, I can tell something. Okay, thank you. Over to Subhayu.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for being here and doing this. We at Notebook work with ma'am very closely on understanding how state boards operate, and it's been such immense learning for us and helps us work better in creating content, particularly for state board schools. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it is now my privilege to introduce to you your next speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Ranjana Shahi. Ms. Ranjana Shahi is an academician with more than 25 years of experience in teaching. She is passionate about working with children. She is an alumnus of St. Mary's Convent and All Saints College, Nainital, and was awarded the Merit of Honor Gold Medal for a Master's from Kumaon University, Nainital. After working for 15 years in Delhi, she is now based in Uttarakhand. In 2018, she started as the founder principal of Delhi Public School, Haldwani, an educationist of students, and the belief of providing a stimulating, safe, motivating, and learning environment is what drives her. She is very effective in resource planning, time and discipline management to achieve academic and co-curricular excellence. Her passion is to shape global citizens who have the roots of value and traditions to hold on to, with the wings to fly with the futuristic innovations to reach for the infinite. Ma'am, privileged to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you, Shubhayu, for that lovely introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you loud and clear. Ma'am, would you be switching on your video?
I would be. I would just like to take some time to do that. And
Sure, ma'am.
as I share my presentation, I would love to also come on video mode.
Sure, ma'am.
So starting with the topic examining exams, firstly, I would like to say a big thank you to Notebook for having me here. A very, very good afternoon to everybody there, the panelists, the listeners who are there, basically the participants. So within a matter of a few months, the coronavirus pandemic has changed the education landscape across the world. And these modifications which we have seen, they have been, whatever we wanted to implement at some point of time, we got a chance because of this huge global health crisis which came over. It sort of presented a roadmap to us to make, some changes in education which were long due. And as coronavirus was spreading right across the various countries and there was lockdown being announced and all, at that very point of time, education also, underwent a huge change from classroom teaching. Overnight, we were into online teaching. So all these decisions which happened also led to a number of innovations. And when I talk about innovations during these unprecedented time of crisis, they have made a lasting impact on the trajectory of learning, innovation, and digitization, where we are going to be moving on to. So when I talk about innovations, I'm talking about, the traditional educational system about which we were lamenting all the time as a teacher, as an educator earlier, and now as a principal. I've always felt that our system of education somehow, it's too outdated. Yes, NEP 2020 has come over, and I am pretty excited about it after having seen and gone through it. And yes, it has all those points which would make the teaching learning process so very different in the times to come. And yes, why I'm mentioning it is because you have evaluation, which is so very important part of anything which we are doing as far as education is concerned. And that is why we would be actually, looking at that segment also. So I would just like to share my screen now and also switch on my video. Just give me a little time, please. I'm very, very sorry. There's some glitch, or rather, I'm a little nervous. So my video is going on and off. I'm very sorry. Yes, Shubhayu, there's some problem with it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry because I think
But now I think it's holding.
Yeah, and I'm very nervous.
Please don't be. You are doing great, ma'am.
So, yes, so the topic is examining exams. And, before I could move on, Mr. Burrett actually said a lot, which I was planning to, involve in my so-called, speaking over as a panelist or as a speaker. So I will not go into all those details because he's already spoken about the Finnish system of education. And that is something which is like a benchmark, because as he said, 20 hours of teaching in a week for the little ones, and it's more playtime as compared to study time in the classrooms. I have had the opportunity to study it to some extent, because the previous school where I was working, one of the educator was sent to Finland to actually study the system. And, when she returned, she shared a lot of those inputs, which today I am able to search on, YouTube and Google also. So definitely that kind of system is really, really going to be effective. And evaluation do happen there also. It's not that evaluation do not happen there. They do happen there. But, here I come to the point where I was discussing that it's not just about examination. Because when we say examination, it's a very broad term. I would like to sort of move away from it and say that there is something like evaluation, which is more per se towards examining or, finding the outcome of something. And assessment is something which I'm very, very partial towards. Because for me, assessment is not the testing that traditional testing or the kind when we say about writing question and answers. It's more about assessing the skills of the child, which we should have actually delivered. And when we look at those skills, we are looking at them from a very non-judgmental aspect. When we look at them, we are trying to see what are the shortcomings, and then we try to give a positive feedback and try to improve that performance of that child. So as I said, evaluation and assessment, though both are similar, but both are used in very different terms of different contexts, basically. I need at least 2-3 minutes to just make you understand what exactly I am leading on to. So the key differences, as I have found out by all my research, which I did after getting this topic, when I look at assessment, it's a process of appraising something. Appraising is a very, very simple word for me, because in my school, the little ones, yes, as we said, the parents would literally go ballistic if exams were not held. So for the little ones also, they want examinations to be held. And I particularly do not like this word examination, especially for the little ones. So I said assessment is also, leaning towards examination. So we use the word appraisal. So for the little ones, we had the word appraisal, and that is what assessment is all about. It's like appraising whatever is being done without actually, making it into a final outcome of something or a result of something. When I talk about evaluation, yes, it's like, as the definition says, it focuses on making a judgment about values, numbers, or performance of someone or something. So this is just one of it. When I look at it, if I identify the level of performance of an individual in an assessment, I am looking at the performance level. While when I'm looking at evaluation, we are looking at the goal attained. Is the final outcome reached or not? So again, isn't it a little harsh when we're doing something like this for the little ones? Yes, finally, yes, we do that. But for the little ones, I do not agree to it. Again, another of the differences, which is the criteria. When I do an assessment, if I'm doing a 360 degrees assessment, as also has been mentioned in the NEP, if I do that, or if there are two teachers deciding to appraise a student, there is a kind of two-party system there. Even at times we are asking the students, why not the peer learning happens, and why not you ask a question from the other one? Because it is something where we are looking at the skill of the child and the application of that skill in achieving something. But when I look at evaluation, it's a set standard. There are certain standards which have been passed on by the evaluator, and you have to stick by it. So, for example, if CBSE is there, it is conducting the examination. There are certain set of standards which are very important. I do understand on the, on a bigger, when I look at the bigger picture, they are definitely important. But when I'm talking about the school system, where, forget about the board examinations. I'm looking about my middle school, my pre-primary, my primary kids. why should I go for a very, set system of evaluation, so to speak? Why cannot I go with, developing skill sets and then assessing them accordingly and, to some extent at the convenience of the child? Because it's not like it's a test for which he would be, learning or preparing or something. It's just that if as an educator, I have been able to, pass on those skills which I had thought of, which was a part of my learning objective for the child, then definitely assessment would also be a measure of my qualification, so to speak, or my kind of, was I successful in the delivery which I had promised to myself and to the child. Again, assessment is an individualized process. So this gives me an opportunity to work with individual kids. It's not something which is like a clone system, all 40 of them in the class, all 30 in the class are going to be following the same system. No, this is more like I have an opportunity to work with individual group sets. We know each child is unique. We speak about it. It's on papers, but how much are we doing something about it? We're not doing anything. So something like an assessment is giving me that opportunity to work on it. So it's an individual process. It doesn't work with set standards. So it's a process oriented system. While if I look at evaluation, set standards, product oriented, what is the end product is always going to be there over me. It's there on the screen. Yes, feedback of the performance and areas of improvement. So outcome of assessment is always constructive feedback. Yes, there might be negative points, but when you speak to the child, when you give a feedback to the child, it would always be constructive. It will always be there to help him move forward, help her move forward. But when I talk about examination or, so to speak, evaluation on a set standard, then there is nothing. There is just the result which would prove my, maybe I have been a topper, or maybe it would just show my shortcomings to everybody. But there is no room for improvement in that particular setup. While in an assessment in a classroom, if I do an appraisal every day, it is helping me to make a difference in the learning of any child who is there in my class. As I said, assessment is to improve the quality performance. For example, a teacher does assessment of student performance and provides constructive feedback. Now, evaluation is more like, very judgmental. It is judging the performance. So the example which I could come up with was when you have moved out and you've gone for a job. Your skill sets are what are being tested. So you have an interview, you answer questions, you either get the job or you do not get the job. So you don't even come to know as to what your shortcomings would have been at that point of time to actually improve on it. It's just a yes or a no. While if I talk about something in an assessment system or appraisal system, I am daily, working towards improving the performance of the child. Next, obviously, evaluations. These are the questions which were coming to me as to why is evaluation necessary and how can it be more effective. So having said that, assessments and evaluation, I take it in the light of assessment is like that journey. We've always been told the philosophical viewpoint is, forget about the destination and you should just enjoy the journey which is there. So I would like to put it in a similar fashion that, this journey of the little ones in the school, it's that journey where we are appraising them, assessing them, because it's not to test them as per se. It is more so because they've come there to be learners. They're going to learn. They're going to learn the skills to survive in the near future. As Achin, I think he said that we are preparing them for jobs which are, we don't even know, which are there in the future, which we wouldn't be knowing about. So what job am I preparing them for? Or for my sake, I would say, what board examination am I preparing them for? The board examination which we were doing for the past years, the new NEP is talking about certain changes, and maybe in the years to come, there might be more changes. So what am I preparing these kids for? What kind of board examination am I preparing these kids for? No, I don't need to do that. I need to develop their skill set. I need to to have the skills developed in the child so that he or she can hold his or her own in the later years to come. They need to apply whatever they've learned here. They need to apply whatever they have, sort of taken in from the system. Rote learning, learning up a chapter, learning up the question and answers, it's just going to give them marks at that particular point of time, make them happy about it, getting a position first, second, third, but it's not going to take them far in life. It cannot. It's in no condition are they going to be able to survive in a later part of their life, because they have to face a world which is changing daily. It's a dynamic world. They're going to be facing all those changes without having the right kind of skill set. So yes, having said that, I would definitely say that evaluation is important. It's a necessary evil, as has been said by the system here. But when we talk about evaluation, we have a standardized set of tests and all, right? In an assessment, we have variable formats. I would be sharing with you the kind of variable formats I'm talking about. First, I'll deal with assessment here. So when I talk about assessments, self-assessment via rubrics. So this is very, very, effective, especially now with online teaching happening and online evaluations or assessment happening. So, it's simply that a rubric is set with all the parameters there and which talks about what marks are where. So each one of us can judge our performance. The teacher need not be the only judge of my performance, because I know if I had done so and so things as per the rubric, I'm supposed to get a 5 or a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1. And my peer does the same thing. So that's self-assessment, where I know where I would have gone wrong. It's teaching me to be honest about whatever I'm doing. I'm marking myself. It's teaching me to understand where my shortcomings were, where I should have, where there is room for improvement. It is giving me an opportunity to understand that where I could have done better, where I could have scored more. And at the same time, my peer is reviewing me and my teacher is reviewing me. It's a very transparent method. And this is something which works in an online system, because as we said, books might be, being opened for a pen and paper test. There might be help being granted. And I did see that happening. We tried doing objective question and answers via Google Form. So initially, we had a kind of, when the child was trying to answer, we felt, yes, he or she was doing, the best they could. But later, we were a little surprised with the kind of 20 on 20 we were getting. So somehow it was like, a kind of a very cynical view, but we thought, yes, it's somebody else trying to attempt that questionnaire which we were sending in the form of a Google form. So again, it sort of didn't work out. One thing which really works out is project work. I'm talking about evaluations in the time of pandemic, because there is a set system of evaluations already with CBSE. So I would want to more focus on the part that when online system is going on, how do we do evaluations? So project work is something where kids tend to do very, very well. And we've seen that during this time, the parents have been very, very supportive. They have been in the, the teaching learning process of the child. So that is something which I believe really helps, because when a project work is done, it's a learning experience. It's providing students with the opportunity to synthesize knowledge, the various areas of learning, and critically and creatively applying that knowledge. Also, they talk about real life situations where these all these whatever material they've collected can be applied. It also enhances the student's knowledge, because he's doing or she's doing the research work himself or herself, and they communicate, they collaborate with either their family members or with the group members which have been given to them, and the independent learning which prepares them for lifelong learning and the challenges which are ahead of them. So all this really helps out. So project work really helps out. I have seen when you talk about work which is being completed, so online evaluation, again, how do I know what is not happening and what is happening? So here again, whatever work has been completed by the child, whatever has been done by the child, if that completed work reaches the teacher as per the instructions, and we give a lot of creative stuff in it, where they are writing assignments, they are giving their own opinion, or they are supposed to actually go with a source-based teaching. So they are looking at a source and deriving answers. One thing which I also shared with my teachers was when we were in school, especially in the ICSE system, we had a picture and then questions were asked on it. Now today, if I give a question to a child of a 5 mark, he or she is supposed to write a 1-page answer. And with online videos on for 3 hours, I do not expect the child to sit. So what is the other way to do it? I just want to test, does the child know about that particular object or a particular structure which I'm talking about? So I told the teacher, I said, just take the picture and give the questions rather than having the child write it in a paragraph form. So obviously the child is in class 8 or 9 and you are like, why 1-line answer, 1-word answer? But at this point of time, what is more important is that the child knows what that building is, what is it made up of, what are the special characteristics. So what ordinarily he or she would have, learned it by heart and sort of put it on the answer sheets, he or she is being guided to answer those questions, and he has the photograph or she has the photograph to look at many a time. So it's like a picture comprehension, but this is more of a subject based. Then when I talk about, evaluation, again, on a national system, it is really, really important that it becomes more with thinking, thinking criteria should be involved in it, because what is happening is that whatever the questions which are being asked, they do not sort of tickle the thinking skills of the child. So if you know about Bloom's taxonomy and you know the various features which are supposed to be there, so it's very important that the national examinations or the so-called board examinations, they should have a set of thinking skills incorporated in them. So like, classifications and comparing and contrasting, interpreting, analyzing, generating ideas, drawing conclusions, inference. All these are thinking skills, which if you put in the evaluation, the final evaluation, these can be, tested. So why we want all of this would be because when I'm doing assessments, these are the skills I'm developing in the child. So the same skills are being applied when the child is giving a final examination or an evaluation, so to speak of. There are various ways of assessing these skills. So like already said, multiple choice questions, structured questions, open-based questions, source-based questions, unseen text questions, oral and listening. So when you take an oral test, it's not like you tell the child tomorrow is your oral test and you better learn this chapter and come to school. No, or come for your online classes. What you need to do is when the teacher is teaching in the class, for example, if so-called evaluations are going to take place, the half-yearly assessments, then there is revision which is being done. So the easiest way is you are revising a concept, or you're doing revision with the students. And what happens? The children, at the end of it, you ask one child to sum up whatever has been taught. Another child could give a synopsis of things. So again, skills being developed, because the child would know that how to frame those synopses, or frame the long and short of something which the teacher has asked him or her. So, and they are vigilant in class, they're paying attention in class, and they are being graded for it. So somehow or the other, we are appreciating their effort and they feel good about it without being stressed out with the fact that tomorrow is my oral examination and I'm supposed to learn for it. That doesn't figure in it. So the stress and the anxiety part is taken care of. So, this is where I would say these questions which are there are being answered. I don't know what the time limit is, but there's so much I can speak on, but I think I have to give it a break. And I would just like to conclude to some extent would be that, yes, COVID has brought about numerous changes in our not only in our lives, and they have not all been negative. Some have been positive, and these positive takeaways, the first one I would say is the part where it has helped in understanding hygiene once again. So the cleansing part of our life is there. The concept of hygiene was redefined and deeply embedded in our psyche for for the times to come. We all took a moment to analyze our lives, connect with ourselves, connect with our families. Air and the water pollution, to some extent, yes, it came down, and yes, the earth was healing itself. People rediscovered their love for books. They have inculcated new hobbies, and homegrown chefs came out, fitness regimes came out, and all this was happening. But the most heartwarming story was about people from different strata of society coming together and helping the ones in need. Moving on to the education, again, the Indian education system has made a paradigm shift from textbooks to e-learning. The short span of time that we have, we had to make the change from textbooks to e-learning. It has posed its challenges of evaluations, but it's not something that we cannot overcome. There are very different means, and if everybody puts their head together, introspects, we would find them. Yes, evaluation is it is necessary for the schooling system, be it virtual or old school style of teaching, and it would be impossible to measure progress without a benchmark or a tool to measure against. But having said that, if we continue to compare the fish's ability to climb a tree to that of a monkey's, the fish will always fail. So, the baseline has to be reestablished. That's what I feel is very, very important. And the COVID pandemic has given us an opportunity in this regard by allowing us to pause and take a step back to reconsider the established rules. And now that a dialogue has begun, we can actively contribute ideas to refine a new and a fairer method of evaluation that allows for, individual eccentricity while also sets an adaptable range rather than a stagnant benchmark. That is what we're not looking at. Because if you look at the NEP, it talks about beautiful changes. And, I am so excited that whenever it comes over, whenever it is established, it would be such a pleasure to look at certain points which our Honorable Prime Minister has been also emphasizing. So it talks about concept learning to be emphasized on. It talks about vocational training. So, slowly this old age method of examination would automatically, sort of fade out, because there are new policies in place, and once they are implemented, I am so very hopeful and so very positive that the examination system about which we are so very worried, slowly it would fade out into a better system, and it would actually test the conception knowledge. It would test the skills of a child rather than the rote learning as we talk about. So I would like to end with a quote. We must be willing to get rid of the life that we have planned, so that we can have the life that is waiting for us. And the old skin has to be shed before the new one can come. So everybody out there, please stay safe, stay at home, stay healthy, follow the norms. I had to say it. I'm getting a platform where I can reach out to as many people and tell them that it is very important that they follow it. And I'm leaving you with a smile on your face with this small image which I came across, that people can be so creative. So this creativity made me smile. And that kind of creativity, not exactly the same kind, but creativity as per se, is the foremost mantra, which is on top of the Bloom's taxonomy table now, which is what we need to get our children to do so. Because as we talk about Finland, for example, yes, the children, there is no ranking system. And there is, the public schools, there's no private school, it's all public school. So there is nothing like the best school, because neighborhood schools are the best schools. So I do hope in the near future we are somewhere near there, because yes, I would want my children to be as happy as possible, because they are after all going to have just one life to be happy and living it to the full. So this is the image I was talking about. It was on a resort. I have removed everything except what I found was very, very amusing. I hope all of you have a good at least a smile because it's there. And thank you so much for having me here. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much. Stay safe and stay at home, be healthy. Anybody wants to connect, it's my email ID, which I've shared. And thank you, Notebook team, for having me here. I hope I've not taken too much of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for doing this with us. It's been an absolute privilege playing host to such a wonderful presentation. And we are also looking forward to having you on board for the Expert Speak event that we have already connected over. We do look forward to that as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that.
Shubhayu, because I did get a topic finally, which I felt I would love to speak on. So thank you for having me here. Have a very good evening, everybody. I'm here and really waiting for the next speaker to be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. To not make you and others wait, let me introduce our next speaker. It is our privilege to introduce Mr. DBS Rao. Mr. Rao worked as a principal of CBSE Delhi affiliated senior secondary schools in India and abroad, with a total administrative experience for over a decade. He is the former principal of the Al Falah International School, DPS Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. He's the former principal of Bhavan's Modern International School, Muscat in Oman. And he's currently the founder principal of the Jagran Public School in Varanasi since November 2014. He is also an adjudge and honorary advisor of schools under NTPC, Northern Region. This includes various schools like Kendriya Vidyalayas, DPSs, DAV schools, and missionary schools. And he's been in this role since 2016. He has a rich and diverse experience of more than 25 years of teaching maths from class 1 to class 12 in day and residential schools, offering education based on CBSE, ICSE, IGCSE, and IB curricula in topmost schools in India. He was awarded the best teacher at the Lawrence School, Lovedale, Ooty, where he was there from 2000 to 2012. And he was given this award in the year 2003 for producing outstanding results in the AI SSE and the AI SSE examinations and overall contribution to the school. He has conducted several workshops for teachers and administrators, and also is an examiner for the IB and CBSE curriculum. Sir, it's a pride and privilege to have you with us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Am I audible to all of you?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Roy, and good evening to all the panelists. And first of all, I begin with giving one-line brief about each of the panelists that they have spoken about. I think I'm doing injustice with them, but at the same time, I beg apologies if I'm wrong. And to begin with, Mr. Philip Burrett stressed on reduce the number of days of test. And next, Mr. Achin Bhattacharyya said, reduce stress in students and focus on learning, because the stress has led to the suicidal tendency of many students. And next is Dr. Minakhi Das, and she was talking about proper systems in place. And Mrs. Ranjana Shahi, it was a wonderful presentation. I really appreciated it. And she was talking about look at skills and not in a judgmental manner. Now let me just begin with examinations. Let me give my thought. There are two report cards. One is the report card that is published and you treasure it with you for all times and it's always there with you. And there is an unwritten report card which nobody knows, but it is always the child, and the children and the teachers know about the child. Okay, that plays a very important role in some students' life, because the report card can only give us a platform, but after that it is the unwritten report card which makes you a better individual or suit to a particular job. Okay, now having said about all these things and listening to all the panelists who have been so wonderful, all that I say, the schools are trying their best to make assessment of students as accurate as possible. as accurate as possible, because it's very difficult to get the most accurate things. We are in challenging times, but adversities give birth to new possibilities. The schools have found innovative ways of examining. Okay. But the thumb rule, what I feel is active participation of students under the supervision of a teacher. When I say active participation, it does not mean that the students who do not participate are not learning. They are also very good learners, but it is just because of their nature. They may be introvert and they don't involve too much, but at the same time, they are also very good learners. And for those kinds of students, it all depends upon the teacher's observation abilities to keep a note of them, so that the progress of each and every child is noted. Okay. Now, what do I do in school? In my school, what I do is I have given a format of a lesson plan, and I tell all the children, you just follow I tell all the teachers, you just follow the lesson plan, and everything will fall into its place, and nothing will be left over. And let me tell you, and the teachers have done a wonderful job, but here and there, there is never completeness. They do attain completeness in any field, for that matter, is not that easy. It's quite difficult, but then there is always a tries to destiny. We try to do perform better. Now, what I believe is what we give to the children is more important, because the performance of the students more depends upon what we give it to them, and it's very highly relatively relative. Okay. Now, for that reason, I would like to talk about two teaching strategies. Okay. First is differentiated teaching. And let me tell you something very interesting. Initially, when we started online teaching, there were some internet breaks and the connectivity problems and all. And when the number of students is more, there was no connectivity, and there was a loss in connectivity, and the teaching learning process used to break in between. So what I thought is, why not to use a differentiated teaching, in which you break the students into small groups of similar learning abilities. So what the teacher does, the teacher teaches a particular lesson and gives the link also, so that the lecture is available offline also. At the same time, there are numerous links available online which can be used to read or go through to learn a particular topic. Then after that, there are two kinds of students. Some students want to learn on their own. They don't want to be in a group. Okay. And the second one is, there are students who want to learn in groups. So what we did is, if there is at all the network problem, let us use differentiated teaching and divide the groups. That it's a job of a teacher to divide the groups, because she's the best judge in the classroom. Okay. The king or the queen of the classroom is the teacher. Okay. So the division is done, and each of the groups again gives links to the teacher. Okay. And now the teacher gets into each one of those groups. See, these are all challenging times, but then there is no end to innovation. Okay. The children give the links to the teacher, and the teacher goes to each and every group and assesses each and every child and also the group. Okay. So I'm really not worried about the bigger examinations. Of course, so we need to produce results. It is not that we just simply shut off from that. Okay. So by doing differentiated teaching, the problem of internet also got solved, and the teacher also went to each and every group. Okay. And noted down the individual as well as collective group abilities. Okay. That is one part of it. That is how the differentiated teaching worked in times of internet. Now, of course, it has settled down, and everything is going on very well. But initially, it was an issue. Okay. Then second is micro teaching. Micro teaching, what we do is, we limit our content and we teach one skill at a time. Okay. And that is repeated, and the teacher demonstrates the skill in the class. Once the teacher demonstrates the skill in the class, that is redone by the students, practiced again and again by the students. And again, the same thing, the link, the children are given the link, and they have so many other links of the same skill. They go through that, and the next day again, the class, the same skill is re-demonstrated. And then here, the advantage is the teacher gets instantaneous feedback. Okay. The feedback that we get from students is very, very important, because that is how we judge a child. And again, I tell you, there are two kinds of assessment. One is a report card which comes to you, and the other is an unwritten one. Okay. The report card is very silent. It just gets into your file, or it just gets into your box. It just in a place. But the unwritten report card is what takes you through your life's journey. Okay. Now this is about micro teaching, in which we just do the recording, reteaching, rediscussing, and redoing. Okay. So this is a second part of it. So basically what I believe is, let us give different kind of learning opportunities for the children, so that they understand things better, they know about things better, they try to apply themselves, they try to create themselves. Okay. Now here I'm going to reinvent something which is already there. And we have been using time and again. Every educator must have mentioned, even Mrs. Ranjana Shahi has also mentioned in her talk about this oral classes and all. But I'm going to make this oral questioning a big one. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, now basically, if I want to make the examination the best examination, I should have the best questions. Okay. We all work very hard to give solutions to children, but how many of us do really work hard to produce good questions? Okay, and students or the teachers who give the best questions are the people who understand the concept the best possible way. So asking questions is very important. Now tell me, let me tell you, there are different kinds of slides that we can prepare, right? Okay. Now with the advent of online teaching, and thanks to Corona, and everybody thanks Corona, of course, people also suffer, and there have been deaths also. It also has been a cause of tragedy. Okay. Despite all that, it has done a lot of good. Okay. So when we talk about good things, even a child who is in a remote place in a village, and when he sees a slide of this kind, I'm telling you, we are really doing a great job. The teachers, they are really doing a great job. Now, let me come back to oral questioning. When I talk about oral questioning, I say you prepare slides. Okay, you give the job of preparing the child to children. They will come up with excellent ideas, and they will prepare the slide for you. And the teacher has just to use the slide for questioning. And this oral questioning can be done at the end. Is generally done at the end of the topic. Okay, at the end of once the topic is over, the oral questioning is done. The teacher asks the questions in small groups or individually, depending upon the strength of the class. If the strength of the class is too high, what you do is you do oral questioning in small groups. And if the strength of the school is very less, you do the oral questioning in small individually. Okay, by then what will happen is we know more about a child, and moreover, let us try to take advantage of something children really love. Okay, they love nice, beautiful pictures. They love, nice videos. Even videos can be played. You play a nice video. At the end of the video, you ask them questions. Children will be glued to the screen. So let us make use of something which children really like. They want to look at the screen with beautiful music. They want to look at the screen with beautiful pictures. They want to look at the screen which has got some beautiful video, something new. Okay, each and every day there is some new video which comes to us. We keep on forwarding. Okay, we get so many things just like that. Okay, so well, why not we use that when everybody is interested in it? So there are many good things in it. So let us use that oral question, those things for oral questionings, and it is going to do wonders. And the children are going to get glued to the screen, mobile screen, or the computer screen, because things are looking so beautiful. Okay, now you see, we all when we talk about framing good questions, we again go back to Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, let me just briefly talk about Bloom's taxonomy. The first part is remembering. It is just a recall. Okay, just whether you have you remember something which has been taught or not. Second is understanding. Okay, that is knows what has been communicated in the class. Next one is applying, that is execute or implement. Next one is analyzing, that is differentiating, organizing, or attributing. And the next one is evaluating or checking. And the last one is creating, generating, or planning. That is, once you have learned something, you learn to create something new. That is the ultimate learning objective. Despite all that, let me tell you in a lighter note. Till 2020, that is till the last year, March, examination of class 10 or 12 or 11 or 12. Let it be from top to bottom, class 1 to 12. Okay, of course, 1 to 12 is internal examination. Most of the students of class 10 and 12 were told only one thing. Dear students, never leave out the questions papers of the last 5 years. Okay, just complete those 5 years of questions. You are more than halfway through, and rest you keep on learning. Okay, so what are we doing? See, we are just repeating questions. I think in one of the talks, Dr. Minakhi Das also has mentioned that there should not be any question which should not be repeated for at least 10 years. That was very wonderful, wonderfully said, ma'am. Actually, that should be there. If the questions repeat, you know, there is nothing that, there is no exercise for the mind. Okay, so that is a loss. And why do we spend so much for loss? See, so many panelists have spoke about so many beautiful things. Okay, and when we conclude it by saying that, you know, you just prepare the question paper of last 5 years, you will halfway through. So it looks that whatever the panelists have said is of not of any use. But this actually, it's a different thing. We do not conclude like this because there is a lot of meaning what they have said. But it's pathetic stage. Sometimes it happens, you know. The questions are repeating, and so we have no solutions for that. Again, of course, new education policy has come up with so many new things, and these things will be really looked into. Okay, so solutions will always be found, and we are a progressive country, and we'll go on having these things. Okay, now let me talk about individual subjects. Okay, now as far as mathematics is concerned, let me tell you, GeoGebra is one of the tools which is such a wonderful one, and it can be used so easily by people. Okay, when you go and click on an icon, you get so many, you get the help box in which it tells you how to use the particular icon. Okay, so you can be a teacher of yourself just by switching on, just playing and exploring the GeoGebra. Okay, it is such a wonderful tool. And I can tell you, it can be used for any topic in mathematics. Let it be lines, segments, points, parallel lines and properties, triangles and properties, trigonometries, graphs or the sine graph, sine curve, cos curve. Okay, entire trigonometry. Let it be 2-dimensional geometry. Let it be 3-dimensional geometry. Let it be scalars, vectors, probabilities, statistics. Everything can be done, and all those things can be done by visual techniques. Okay, when something, suppose you are doing something in conic sections and you are able to see different kinds of parabola just coming on the screen in just fraction of a second, all the concepts of a parabola you can just tell in 5 minutes. All the concepts of a circle you can just tell in a matter of minutes. Okay, so the learning is so quick and so fast. Okay, so I suggest all the mathematics teachers, whoever is teaching mathematics, please download this GeoGebra software. It is free. It is free. But one good thing it does is, if you have done a project, you have to save it in the Google. You have to save in the GeoGebra page only. That means, you know, whatever creations that you're doing, it is known to GeoGebra. That is very good. You know, that is very, very good. I really thank those people who have worked on it, and it's a wonderful tool. Okay. Next, talking about languages. When we talk about language, some of the syllabus has been reduced. Okay. When the syllabus has been reduced, we can focus more on grammar. Okay, we can go some, and we can tell them to do some creative writing. We can give some hints and ask them to write a story, or we can just give a situation and ask them to write a poem. No, we don't know. See, I don't believe in making engineers and doctors for that matter. And I tell everyone, you know, just keep learning. You may be doing good in something, and that will fetch you a good fortune. Okay, then after grammar, it is creative writing or letter writing. So letter writing is very important. Okay, when a child leaves the school after class 10, when he wants an TC, he should be able to write an application. And I don't really want to know what a child has written as an application in his examination, but he gives me a right application asking me for a TC. It gives me immense happiness. I become really happy that I have taught him something. So the same skill he'll be using somewhere else, and his applications will be approved. Okay, that's how I think. Okay, next one is writing notices, media reporting. Nowadays there are so many television channels. Okay, you just open it, it's a reporting. Just see the whatever the recent happenings are happening, and a report is going to a place and is talking about an incident. Okay, and just give us children situations. Yes, I watched the TV today. Just say what is happening and come tell a few words. Let the child express. That's what language is all about. Expression and the vocabulary. Now let me tell you, if a person knows about a particular language, if he knows 100 words, he can speak that language. But as a language person who knows good language, he should have good vocabulary. There should be lots of words in his dictionary, okay, so that he can speak. And you know, I really sometimes hear some of the lectures given by Mr. Jaggi Vasudev. He uses excellent English. I just listen to him for his English. He, in every English, every sentence that he speaks, there are some beautiful words in that. And sometimes I go and pick the dictionary and try to find the meanings out of it. Okay, that's how it's about learning is. Everything is on the net. Let us guide the children. Let us tell them to get all the good things into it and just use them and explore. Okay, of course, there are certain things, children are children, and they have to be constantly monitored of how they use the cell phones and all. Okay, next about sciences. How do we teach science? Okay, there are so many experiments that are done in school. Now in pandemic times, let the teacher go to the science lab and perform an experiment and record it. Okay, once the experiment is recorded and that is given, students are given a link, and the students, there is an interaction between the students and the teachers. Then again you start oral questioning. You have a video with you, you have the teacher, you have the children, explore yourselves. And everybody understand the concepts. And here I would like to tell, it's very, very important. Tell children just to do what you say and let them not experiment anything beyond that at home, because it's very dangerous, because certain experiments have to be done under the supervision of a teacher, and without the supervision of a teacher or some person who knows about it, it's not advisable to conduct any experiment, because little knowledge is very, very dangerous. Okay, so because we'll be playing with the lives of children, ultimately the process of learning is going to end. So that is very dangerous. So we should not encourage students to do some experiments at home just like that. Okay, that's very, very important. Now talking about social science, is there anything for social science in oral questioning? There is a lot. Okay, there are recent, you have so many pictures, you have almost many things which are there in the textbook are already there in the net. Okay, you just have to collect, tell the teachers, students to prepare different video clippings, different slides and all. They will come up with the slides, they will prepare everything, they will show it. Okay, and the teacher has to just use it in the right way for questioning. So I believe all the tests apart, okay, we children have to give the objective questions, still have appear the objective questions, they have to appear the subjective questions and all, but the recap that happens at the end of every session has to be very wonderfully done. And oral questioning with a new model or an extended model or a very high level model with even artificial intelligence, I say that. I'm not wrong if I say that I am using artificial intelligence in making oral questions. Okay, let us do that and let us make it so beautiful that children are engrossed and they want me to ask some questions by showing some videos, some visuals. Okay, this is all about social sciences. Now let me come back to last this part of it. There is objective question. There is already a lot discussed about it. But as far as subjective questions are concerned, I'll tell you a small anecdote. You see, when I was a small child, my father used to appear for departmental examinations, and he used to carry the books to answer the questions. And we used to ask him, your examinations are so easy that you carry the books and you appear the examinations. And how easy it for you? For that, my father used to reply, you know, if I keep searching for the answers, the examination time will be over and I will not be answering any questions. Okay, that's jokes apart. In subjective questions, our intention should be to engage the children. And if a child does not know the answer, and if he does not give any answers and just sends a blank, messages a blank paper to the school or the teachers, entire purpose is defeated. So what I say is, let us have an open book system where children can access the textbooks and let them work. Let them work on it. And the purpose is to engage them and let us see whatever the answers is. He has done some work. We want the child to work. Next, at the same time, there are many children who answer the questions on their own. Okay, they don't need any supervision, and they say, sir, I have done it on my own. And children, there are so many good qualities in children. We need to encourage them, and that's why we are. And the parents also, they are there. Of course, if we give the open book test, the part of cheating concept will be left over, removed to a big extent. And children who know the answers, they will answer on their own. And the children who do not know will refer the book and give answers. Okay, so that's what I conclude by saying that I think I have completed, taken into consideration almost all the aspects of all the subjects of examining. Okay, and there are some wonderful illustrations that I have done using GeoGebra. I would like Mr. Abhishek to just play it so that people see it and know how good and how easy and how beautiful it is. Mr. Abhishek,
let me discuss some factors of GeoGebra which can be used for oral questioning. It is a wonderful tool and easy to use. You can see the screen on the left hand side. I have typed all the equations of the circle. And in the middle, you have the graph and the circles. Okay. All the circles are visible to you now. Okay. Now, there are many questions that we can ask using this. What are the coordinates of the circle? What is the radius of the circle? In which quadrant or the axis does the center lie? I can select any one of the equations. Suppose I select the second equation, x minus 2 whole square plus y square is equal to 16. Then I can ask them, what is the coordinates of the circle? On which axis or the quadrant does the center lie? And what is the radius of the circle? So I'll be getting probable answers. And once I get the answers, I'll just use this tool of opacity so that the particular circle is identified. Now the children relate the equation and also the circle. So once they read through all these equations and identify all the circles, students get an idea of where a particular circle lies. So just by seeing the equation of the circle, they can identify or locate the circle in their minds. So that is something very beautiful because it helps them a lot in understanding a particular question and apply themselves. And so I'll give you an example of how easy is it to use this tool. Okay, now let me type an equation. Y squared is equal to suppose say 4x. Now once I have typed the equation, the graph of the equation is visible. That's a parabola. So that is how simple it is. Now again the same exercise can be done to find out what are the focus or what is the axis of the parabola. There are lots of questions that can be asked. So GeoGebra has got many features. It's not only related to geometry, but probability, statistics, calculus, and many other topics which I have already told you. Okay. Now let me share the screen and also see about some more examples of questions that can be asked in different subjects. You see, I have one more slide in mathematics, for example. There, find the area of a triangle. The measure of whose sides are 13, 12, and 5 centimeters respectively. As 3 sides are given, students may think of using Heron's formula and take a long time. It's a Pythagorean triplet because 12 square plus 5 square is equal to 169. And the longest side definitely is the hypotenuse. So they can use the area of the triangle, that is half base into height, and find the area of the triangle. So this is, there are two things. One is application of a formula, and second thing is analyzing and trying to use the appropriate formula. So there are lots of questions that we can give, and which opens their minds. Okay. Now let us go to the second questions. You see, in English, there are lots of questions that you can give online. You know, there are a lot of animation that can be done. There are a lot of pictures that you can use, and along the pictures you can write the questions, and also you give the probable answers and ask the children whether the answers are right or wrong. Okay, so the children being in a remote place also see all these things and have a better idea of understanding things. And next one is about critical thinking. Look at the picture and speak for 2 minutes. Okay, we have given a picture. They can also write a story. They can also write a poem, or they can write whatever it comes to their mind at the moment they see the picture. Okay, so in all these ways, we can just understand the students' abilities, their creative abilities, and critical thinking, or general understanding of facts. So the questioning, therefore, is very, very important.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Shubhayu, back to you.
Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, Mr. Rao. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. It's really heartening to see so much of wonderful work being done on the internet. As you rightly pointed out, almost every subject has wonderful tools that students can use to learn. If it is not too much of a beating of our own drum case, let me quickly tell you a little bit about what we have been doing at Notebook. During this pandemic, we were fortunate enough to come to the aid of 14 lakh, which is 1.4 million students, because we made the platform completely free as well. And 1.4 million students during this period of time could use Notebook and learn from it. And it was a very humbling experience to see that number grow day on day. In addition to that, we also conducted teachers trainings, and we were able to make teachers across more than 1,000 schools. In fact, just last week, we celebrated reaching 1,000 schools as a milestone, where we got teachers on online platforms where we could make them more conversant with online classes. And sir, if I may just request this one thing of you, that if GeoGebra was the answer to your first slide, for your second and third slides, if you could visit www.notebook.school, you would find that exhaustive amount of question and answers have been given for both the topic of pronouns as well as picture essays. And we are really proud of the kind of work, because I completely agree with you. We put a dismal amount of importance on subjects like maths and science in comparison to English or social sciences. And we at Notebook have made a conscious effort to give as much importance to those topics as any other subjects. So I would really humbly request you to visit www.notebook.school once and see if our solutions to those questions that you had posted would be to your satisfaction or not. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for me to invite Achin back to thank all of you for this wonderful session today. Achin, over to you.
So I think a really very thought-provoking, I'll say, today's session. And I'm sure that all of us go back with some very important takeaways. Burrett sir, thank you so much for giving us a flying start. It's really awesome to hear from you, especially your real-life experiences. Great to know about Finnish system of education. In fact, that's something truly aspirational. Dr. Das, ma'am, we have learned so much from you. In fact, I'd like to mention this for our entire audience, that we work very closely with Dr. Minakhi Das. In fact, at Notebook, all our advisors, Burrett sir, Minakhi ma'am, and Neeraj sir, I can tell you their contribution to our entire pedagogy is immense. We've learned from them each day. In fact, our pedagogy is indebted to ma'am for her inputs, especially on the state board part that Shubhayu mentioned. We started working on bilingual content almost 1.5 years back. And it's great to see the new education policy adverting the same as per the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister. And we firmly believe that this is a step in the right direction. Miss Ranjana Shahi, great presentation, I must say. And I really like the way you differentiated between assessment and evaluation. That's something very enriching. And I'm sure each member of the audience joins me in thanking you for the same. Also, some effective means of assessment for holistic development in early stages of learning that you mentioned were wonderful. So I guess, and I also thank you for mentioning the positive aspects of the pandemic. Indeed, this has been one of the worst humanitarian crises that we have seen in our lifetimes. I'll say the worst one. But as we always discuss about two sides of the coin, very rightly you mentioned the stress on hygiene, the kind of time people have spent with their families, and spent with books, homegrown chefs coming in, and the way the entire environment has healed. Cleaner air, cleaner water. So this indeed allows all of us to pause and take a step back. Blue sky thinking is the need of the hour as we press the reset button. Mr. Rao, some very good points you made, sir. I really like the way you explained about your two report card theory, unwritten and unpublished one, especially. I think that's very important. That's what takes you to places. I also liked about your teaching strategies, differentiated teaching and micro teaching. So I guess these are some great points that all of us go back with. In fact, we at Notebook are truly humbled at the kind of response that we have got, the kind of support that we have got from our esteemed educators. And as Shubhayu mentioned, today, when we look back at our journey with 14 lakh users and working closely with more than 1,000 schools, it could not have been possible without your support. I thank each and every one of you. Continuous suggestions, feedback, guidance that we have received, support that we have received, we are truly humbled at Notebook. I thank all of you again for your time today, and we look forward to hosting you in our next webinar. Thank you, take care and stay safe. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Achin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.